And Scott, thank you so much for being on the Metal Mixtape here out of Ashland, Oregon. Tell you a little bit about our show. We do reviews, we do reactions, we do interviews. We are an FM radio station out of Ashland, Oregon. We play local bands, global bands. Doesn't matter if you're 100 likes or a million likes. We don't charge you for shit.
Right on. Well, thanks. We're glad to be here. It's Steve, by the way.
Oh, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
I read Steve wrong. I read stuff wrong.
A degree of difference.
Honestly, it's funny. Between my first name and my last name, like I'm almost always the one who has the name mispronounced. Almost always. But either way.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna try your last name. So.
Oh no, that's what it would trip you up.
Oh no, I know. Usually I do my homework though, because usually when I a lot of the artists I usually interview are like from Finland or like Norway, and and I want to give them respect by saying their name in their native language.
Oh,
so
sure.
I always go to like a language reader, and I'll literally be teaching myself like German, like 6 times. I'm like, all right, I have to say this right, and I'll nail it, and the artist will be like, hey, thanks, appreciate it.
No, totally. I probably would do the same thing.
Yeah.
So you guys can correct me. The band name is Brett, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Got that one right. I feel like I'm on Wheel of Fortune. I just hit $1,000. All right, guys. Well, dude, hey, it's good to finally talk to you guys. I've been following you guys on Instagram for I think like 2 years now, and I've seen all your progress up and down. And you know what? You guys are always so supportive, and it's crazy how many bands and radio shows or whatever, so many things in like the state of Oregon that like you wouldn't even know. Like every day, I swear, I hear a new band that's been around for a decade that I've never heard before that's here that kicks ass, dude. And your band, which is a badass psychedelic doom metal band, which is so killer. And what tripped me out, which I was listening to you guys and I was like, man, I wonder if Steve is playing like a 12-string guitar or something. That's like a real dun dun. I was like he's ready to get heavy. And then I started watching some of your live shows. I'm like, oh, that's a sexy bass.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've been working on our sound in secret for years, and put together several songs, and the first batch of songs, like usual, were projects of ours for quite some time before going out into the world. So tell me this though. It's like, when did you guys decide that you wanted to keep it between you guys, like a 2 band member like duo live on stage, and also, like, what's the songwriting process when, like, you only have 2 instruments? Is it, like, do you guys just try to go, like, more in depth with, like, the rhythm sections and really, like, bleed out these sounds? Like, where did the whole concept come from to do a project like this specifically? Because this is pretty unique.
Well, I think we tried for a long time to find a guitar player. And we had a couple potential people, but we never found anyone that. We found a couple people that would be a good fit, but really didn't have the time commitment capabilities. So after a while, I think we just decided to just go for it and just write the songs as if there's not going to be any other accompaniment. And then, well, as for the other stuff, the songwriting process, largely, actually, you want to take this one?
Well, we've been in like several bands since high school, actually, and
awesome.
Yeah, and like in between practice or whatever, we'd always be messing around, and I'd always be writing weird riffs, and I have a tendency to go off into melodic avenues, and it was just kind of tangential and a point of contention hilariously. And so I guess it was just kind of a perfect combination of being a rhythm section that plays naturally together pretty well, and I just kind of have a natural tendency to kind of blend melodies into the bass, and so it kind of just allowed us to create our songs as a two-piece.
Yeah, and I would largely just listen to all of Steve's melodic ideas and not try not to think about it too hard and just play whatever felt natural. And the songs would almost, at least the core of them for me, would almost write itself. Is like, if we just keep playing it, I'll come up with something. And a lot of times, at least the points of contention over the years with other players is neither one of us really play in a way that's just super predictable. So when you have like a big like group of musicians that are trying to be like, well, he's playing in this key, so he'll naturally do this. It's like, well, it doesn't really work like that. And we, we played together for so long that after a while, it's just like, well, our weirdnesses kind of complemented each other. And yeah, without having a third sort of musical voice, I think we're both kind of trying to play off of each other in interesting ways, because like there's nothing else. It's just us, so we're playing Doom, but we usually like, man, like you have so many variations, and so do I really. Like, it's like a lot of times the core of the song is pretty simple if you look at like the structure, but there's a lot of nuance and variation that we add in, usually through just sheer practice,
Oh, no, absolutely. I completely agree. I was listening to it's Primeval Transmissions, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no, I definitely agree with that, man. Like there's definitely way more. I would say there's a ton of different metal genres slammed into one, but I could feel the emotion behind it too. I could tell that in a live show that it's probably like 10 times the feeling that I would listening to the album. I always feel it when it is these type of genres. When you guys are like gearing up to play live and everything, like, are you just cranking that your bass all the way up and running it through like it almost sounds like you're almost running it through like a distortion? Like, how are you coming up with that unique bass sound?
Well, it's been an evolving thing where each show I'm getting more comfortable with and realizing the reality of higher volume and reaching the tone that I'm looking for. And it's a high output amp, and I've been reluctant to blow out people's ears, and so I dial it back. But over the last several shows, I've been more comfortable with cranking it up. But it's a 400 watt tube amp, so it gets a lot of natural distortion. And then I'm running a Fuzzlord Nazareth pedal, which is made by a guy out in Eugene locally. And so that's where I get most of the distortion.
Dude, I love it, man. I love it. And Ian, where I'm not too familiar with the drummers of like I don't want to throw you guys in a genre, but I'm saying like this stylistic of metal, like what inspiration do you pull from when you play your music? Because like you compliment Steve so well in playing your guys' metal, but where do you pull? Because I've heard drummers from power metal bands, from metalcore bands. Tell me a little bit about your inspirations, man, and where you pull from.
Well, I pull from a couple of like the obvious places, like, you gotta love the old Bill Ward from Sabbath, and
Do you know what's crazy? That's literally was in the top of my head the whole time. But go ahead.
I love Dale Crover. Like the Melvins are one of the most prolific bands ever, and he is a super creative drummer, and always finds something not even necessarily complicated, but really interesting to play. I love that guy. I'll listen to anything he records. I would say my biggest drumming influence for us right now, though, is Emil Amos, the current drummer for Ohm and Grails. I've been following his career for like ever, since we were in like just out of high school, basically. And yeah, that guy's playing is like really inspirational. He never does what you think he's going to do, and I don't think he ever plays a bar the same way twice. Just really inspirational stuff. That's usually what I go to when I'm like can't come up with something. Is I'll go and listen to that guy play in whatever one of his projects. It doesn't matter.
Dude, that's sick, man. I love it, man. So to change directions to this release, is this your newest release, the Primeval Transmissions? Is that your most recent?
Yeah.
So as a tell me a little bit about the recording process on how you guys nailed your sound, and also how do you guys know when a song's done? Like, how do you guys decide when because you know what I mean? Like, you could literally move like every little thing that makes something sound different. You recorded the song and then you realize you want to write it different. There's all these variables. You didn't. All of a sudden there's a buzzing sound you've never heard in your guitar. So tell me the recording process of Primeval Transmissions, and also tell me how do you guys know when a product is finished?
Well, as far as knowing when something is finished, I think we're both pretty bad at that. We've both declared songs finished, and then we play in a few more practices or play a few shows, and then rewrite stuff. That's a tough one. I think we have such a tendency to write longer songs that will usually impose a limit. Like we've already written a few long songs, we got to write a shorter song, and we'll deliberately curtail certain, tendencies. It's like we could write more sections for this, but we probably shouldn't. But yeah, like just even for Primeval Transmission songs, like we've been shuffling our set list up so much, and sometimes we just don't have that much time in a set to play some of these longer songs. So a number of the songs have a lot of different ways that we play them.
Yeah, it's I mean, like a lot of the riffs are born from like walks in the woods, and something will just come to me. And I was actually just talking about this. There's these ebbs and flows of writer's block, and then like all the held up energy, song ideas will just flow, and you almost get I almost get kind of like a manic energy of while it's there, jotting it down or recording the idea, because it's like a fickle, momentary bit of inspiration, and so sometimes those moments happen after we have declared an idea, and but that's we're learning that you just have to be open to working on stuff until you're really happy with it. We're almost done with our next album, so we've learned a lot about the recording process.
This is Oliver.
Oh, hey.
Hey, cats are awesome, dude.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Oliver.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just, that's. Oh, go ahead, Ian.
I'm just gonna say, like, when we recorded Primeval Transmissions, it was at the beginning of the pandemic when we went in to do the sessions, and just having like we had to sit on it for a while before we could really, tour it. And so by the time we were actually playing and trying to promote promote this record, it was, we'd already written half the new record. And even so, we we had already kind of played a few gigs and reimagined some of the sections. We played a show where we had Rob Wrong from Witch Mountain sit in with us to play the part that he does on the album, but also play an additional part on another song. And one of our friends also played hand drums for some of the lower key parts.
Oh, that's awesul.
We could go back in time and add that to the record. That'd be fucking wonderful. But,
So, I always like asking this question. I don't think it was too long ago, but what do you guys think you guys learned during the pandemic from yourselves, having all that time off and no pressure? Because like a lot of musicians, there's no pressure to tour. There's no, I swear everybody and their grandfather dropped an album that, the first year of the pandemic, literally everyone did. And everybody dropped an album to the next one. And there's normally some times where bands they'll wait like 3 to 5 years. Nah, they just dropped 2. So tell me, did you guys grow as musicians at all during the time of the pandemic?
Oh, I definitely think so. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah, there was a lot of I think I'm naturally kind of introverted and introspective, but it was kind of amplified quite a bit during that time. And I have so much respect for the bands that were able to put together an album over that distracting time. But I actually didn't pick up my bass for several months at least, but then was totally caught a wave, and it was the beginning of the album that we're coming to the closure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we're still riding that wave, because it was the same for me. That first 4 to 6 months of the pandemic was, we couldn't do anything. We didn't play, but yeah, I feel like once we got back into it, both of us are twice the player that we were even when we recorded the album. It's kind of just the irony of us working so hard and recording that album, and I think lockdown happened as we were in the studio, if not the day of, within 1 or 2 days of our studio time, and so it was just, and now that everything's coming back, it's 2 years later. It's man, if we could go back in time and re-record Primeval, with what we've done so far,
Yeah, it was odd timing. I think lockdown was the day after we finished studio time, but I think there was a lot of learning about myself, speaking for myself, that informed and fed the songs we're working on now.
Yeah.
And I kind of funneled my energy into our social media and pushed myself to write almost every day, lyrically or otherwise. It's just kind of wading through dissonance until you find the inspiration that resonates with you, regardless of outcome. Kind of, I don't know, I found the sort of subject matter and sound that really reflects myself. So I feel a lot more ownership, just in the way of feeling good about what we're playing now.
I love it. That was perfectly explained. So before we get into the second part of the interview, if you guys could recommend any one song to a new fan that's going to be listening to this interview or listening on air, what would you recommend?
Oh wow.
What would you say?
You know, I think to a metalhead, I'd probably recommend Battle for Harmonic Balance. To
Dope.
someone that dabbles in metal, probably Observer, because Observer is more straightforward and it has a guitar solo, which, you know, like even my mom likes Observer. Like, um, but I think Battle is one of our most like realized compositions. You know, it has like several very distinct movements. They all flow together really, really well. It's also catchy. It's a song when we were writing would be constantly stuck in my head. And the some of the other numbers on Primeval are just, evocation is kind of like a big thing and it's split up into parts, and Dwarka is kind of like a more of like a minimalist type of like long form piece. And Battle seems to be like a really good in between, and it's for, all things considered, kind of upbeat and almost bouncy relative to what we usually do.
I love. Would you agree, Steve?
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I was gonna say Observer, but I just because it's the shortest piece that we have, just as a starting point. But I think
it is a good little like digestible like chunk that really represents what we sound like. But like I said, if I was talking to a metalhead, it was like, okay, you've listened to some longer songs before. Like we'll start you with this.
I like it. I like it. All right, guys. We're gonna get to the second part of the interview. We're gonna try to get through these questions as quick as possible. You guys ready to do this?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna. This is gonna be questions, and it's gonna be for both of you, but we'll take turns. Who goes first? We'll start with Ian. If you could play drums for any band in any era, dead or alive, for one set, who are you playing for?
Oh shit, dead or alive? Probably Ween.
All right. Steve, same question. Dead or alive, any set, any era, one set, who are you playing with?
Let's see. I think Black Sabbath. Oh yeah, the Volume 4 Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah, that's
I like it.
old era.
All right. We'll start with Steve on this one. In a zombie apocalypse, you can pick any weapon to destroy the zombie horde, but it can't be the cure and it can't be a nuke. What is that one weapon?
No. Probably incredibly high decibel sound that drives everything away or crushes it.
Oh man,
Nice. Well, what about you, Ian?
I was gonna say just some kind of like a shotgun with a like a spread shot on it. Something that I can like stop things with. So I thought about like some kind of sledgehammer or axe, but I've done enough like farm work to know it's like you get tired real fast swinging that thing. Like I'd rather have something that I can just knock them over and run.
That's true. That's true. All right. Starting with Ian on this one. All right. If you could choose your death, but you had to be killed by somebody in a horror movie, who would you choose to kill you, and how would they do it?
Oh gosh, I'd definitely choose Freddy Krueger to kill me. It would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Hey, Freddy scares the hell out of me. So,
well, but we both of us have been such huge fans of that franchise for a lot of years, and he just became such a cheeseball parody of himself. It was almost meta when you think about it. And so I'm just imagining what Freddy Krueger would pull out of my psyche, and then be cracking jokes all the while, killing me. Like I'm like I would be like, I'm not even mad. Like,
yeah.
Good job, Freddy. This is hilarious.
All right, Steve, same question. If you could choose your death, but you had to get killed, somebody in a horror movie, who would kill you?
I think I'd have to go with my favorite horror movie, The Thing. I'd probably get absorbed by the horrible organism in some awful way.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
The head of the thing, you know, like the one that was absorbed. That's like kind of like the primary, like.
Oh yeah.
Like we'd have to lock you up in the cabin out in the snow.
Yeah. I'd regret the decision if it was real.
I like it. I like it. Well, Ian and Steve of Breath, thank you so much for being on the Metal Mixtape. I appreciate you guys being on. Everybody, please check them out. Please tell the fans out there in Ashland, Oregon, and around the world where they can find you guys.
Well, thank you, Omar. We're really grateful to be on your show, and you can find us at Breath PDX on Instagram, Breath PDX on Facebook as well, and all of our links are on the homepages there.
Sweet. Well, Ian, Steve, I appreciate you guys so much for being on the Metal Mixtape again. Everybody, please go check out Breath. Guys, you have a great night.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, guys.